I just wanted to see Shane Beamer dipped in Cheez-Its. That's all I wanted for it to close out 2024. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered's postgame show. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, and today we talk about a 21-17 Illinois victory as the War Chickens fall short of a 10-win season out in the Citrus Bowl. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification down below because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the channel, wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials. Link is in the description. Make sure that you follow Dave at Mock10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This post-game show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. $20 off whenever you can go visit whatever you want to see fit. The NFL, the NBA, college football still available for some teams going to the semifinals. If you want to go to your favorite concert, go see your favorite comedian, make sure you go use the Game Time app, promo code SECU at sign up. Yeah, Dave, I got nothing on this one. This was the one game I was the most confident in of every single one that we had seen this year because of the opt-ins, the way that you closed out the year on a high note, the way that this team had all the morale at the right time. It just, to me, felt like as much as I want to believe that Illinois could turn the corner, Shane Beamer was going to have the War Chickens locked and loaded. I mean, they had a better season than USC football out with the other one down in California. But regardless of that, that's not really saying as much. You close out the year, and now we have to have a serious conversation, like a legit, honest conversation. The SEC in 2024, it was a down overall year, and certainly overrated is a word that I'm not ready to use just yet, but it's really hard not to.
Yeah. I mean, not toot my own horn here, Bear. Maybe a little, but not. But I think since about week 4 or 5, I've been like, look, the SEC has some good teams. I don't know if there's a great team in it. And again, I think you can maybe make the case. I don't know if there's a great team in college football. Now, I think if Ohio State plays like they did against Tennessee, plays that way every week, yeah, that's a great team. But we haven't seen that consistency. But from an SEC standpoint, I don't think there were we've seen better teams from a top-heavy perspective in the league. I think that was an issue this year, and we just kind of had some inconsistencies in that middle ground here, and they faltered late. We had some teams falter late. I mean, South Carolina faltered today, but I don't know.
No, there were so many other teams that faltered down the stretch. I mean, out like
no, that's what I'm saying. You got Alabama, Ole Miss. It was just a weird. Again, and it's weird because I don't like to take a ton from bowl games because they're glorified scrimmages, but you do have to take something from it. And let's be honest, it wasn't a good day for the SEC. There's no way to sugarcoat it. You can weigh it a little more and scale it down some maybe, but there's no defending it was a good day. I mean, there's no way. Or that it was irrelevant. There's no way. I don't know, though, Bear. I mean, just we've seen better days for the league so far. And it's weird. We've added 2 teams. It's just, I don't know. Anybody can beat anybody. Literally, we saw it every week to week. I mean, Kentucky played Georgia. There was no team that ever really ran away and kind of separated themselves by just alone. And I still think we still have 2 teams left in the playoffs, in Georgia and Texas. Obviously, we'll see them tomorrow.
And both can still win, and they can win the whole damn thing, and watch them potentially play against each other in the national championship for a three-peat.
They definitely could. I would say this: the SEC ceiling and floor is more drastic than we've seen in a while.
Yeah, that's very fair for South Carolina. The big takeaway that I will say is this year, I'm not going to go ahead and get into officiating just for this game. The one that we can talk all about is naturally the LSU matchup. If you put them in the postseason, I mean, I'm not going to lie. They still feel like a dangerous team. But also you watch today as an Illinois roster was able to utilize the passing attack headlined by Luke Altmaier, the way that Zachary Franklin was able to break his way on open, the consistency in the second and the third quarter that kind of pulled them away just a little bit, and the inconsistencies of a young quarterback learning the brand new offense underneath Mike Shula hurt them. And I'm not saying that the Kyle Kennard overall opt-out was the deciding factor. I'm not saying not having a guy like Rocket Sanders out there was detrimental to your success because you found a way to get some success, especially with that big 4th down touchdown with Oscar Attaway. But it just felt like, again, this was a game to where I look at a team like South Carolina. Momentum was trending at the right time. They closed out the year with the win over the ACC champion. They closed out the year on a 6-game winning streak. They feel like that the vibes are good. More importantly, they feel like that they're a team that is trending in the right direction. Shane Beamer's got the War Chickens looking for a 10-win season, which has only happened 8 times in program history, and it hasn't happened since, 2014 was the last time? 13 was the last? I think it was 13 was the last time. We're talking about, that's how close this South Carolina team is. And they never found a consistent offensive identity 21 points to an Illinois roster is not that bad. It's when you only are getting 17 points offensively, especially with how you look down the stretch, that is really disappointing.
Oh, you missed Rocket Sanders today. For
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
For most of the back half of the season, your offense was kind of the 2-on-2 version of just Lenore Sellers making plays and Rocket Sanders getting a lot of yards after contact. But no, I think today, to be fair, again, let me preface this before South Carolina fans get mad at times of this. I think Shane Beamer's done a phenomenal job this year. If it was not for Clark Lee taking Vanderbilt to 6 wins when he got the award, Shane Beamer would have been SEC Coach of the Year. Did a phenomenal job riding that momentum late in the year, keeping that going. But today they were out-coached by Brett Bielema and them. You got to give Brett Bielema and Illinois credit. I think they looked more prepared coming into the game. And to be fair, some of that may be true because South Carolina went through an offensive coordinator change. I mean, there's going to be – and I know Shula was in the building, but still there could be some learning adjustments. And I think we saw a little bit too. Lenore Sellers is not as polished as a lot of people were projecting. Again, a phenomenal foundation off this year that Mike Shula has to build off of. He's just not accurate right now consistently, but I think that can be developed. Again, he's a young cat. He's a redshirt freshman. He'll be fine. It's just we do see some times where he's having a hard time layering the football on a consistent basis. But I think that can be I think that can be improved out of spring and fall. So I'm not really worried about Lenore Sellers, but tonight he wasn't great, and the offense wasn't great. But again, I think overall great year for South Carolina, but I just think they were out-coached tonight. I give Brett Bielema credit.
Dave, you talked a lot about losing a guy like Rocket Sanders and his impact to the team. Lenore Sellers finished 24-34, 260 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, ran for another 19 yards. The team as a whole finished with 130 rushing yards and 3.9 yards per play. The fact is that when you don't have that consistent run game, when you don't have that bell cow bruiser, somebody that you know is going to command attention up the middle to open up the passing attack, especially for the way that they love to run the RPO at times, or maybe get the defense kind of falling for the fake move, that becomes an issue. And again, Oscar Attaway, you got to go ahead and talk about what he did provide, that big touchdown run, bringing again South Carolina ahead in the third quarter. That's something that you really, really like. But I just feel like, again, this is one of those games where I don't know what went wrong. Was it the play calling? Was it just the fact of the new head coach? I mean, the new offensive coordinator. Was it not having a big old different receiver? Was it just inconsistent throws by Lenore Sellers? He nearly had an interception in the end zone. The drop pass by Joshua Simon on 4th and goal. I mean, it's little things like that that carry a lot of weight. That don't mean that you're a bad team. It just means that you're a few clicks away from really settling yourself in as a force moving forward in the SEC. And I'm not taking away from South Carolina's season. They absolutely should be proud of where they are compared to what we envisioned at the start of the year. The only people that believed in South Carolina to begin 2024, the way it was really South Carolina fans and Shane Beamer. But I don't think for 1 second that, again, this was a game that I'm going to hold back and say South Carolina did have a good year. They had a very solid overall and a really strong season to lay a foundation moving forward, but just not everything went your way.
Yeah. No, I mean, it would have been interesting if they had Rocket Sanders because, again, I was just looking at they had, 4 red zone trips and 3 points. Like, you feel like if you had Rocket there, it's a little different. That's why, again, all these bowl games, asterisk, but they do have to mean something. And right now, the SEC's 1-4 against the Big Ten.
Yeah,
that's something the Big Ten should be proud of. They've beaten the SEC so far. We got to tip our cap to the Big Ten. The Big Ten fans, they've been coming over here since the start of the playoffs, since the start of the bowl season, and welcome. But no, I tip of the cap there. But I'm with you, Bear. I'm still not really down on South Carolina's season. I mean, again, they overachieved significantly. I had them as a 4-win team going in. That was my biggest miss of the season. Outside of Vanderbilt, but everybody missed on Vanderbilt. But South Carolina was my biggest preseason prediction miss of the season. They were much better than I thought. They have a foundational piece at quarterback coming back. Stuff to be fired up about, for sure. And you get some of your tougher games that you had this year back at home. So, no, I mean, stuff to move on. I think Illinois was impressive, dude. I got to give them credit. They looked like they came in with a game plan. They were all on the same game. They all on all the same page there. And Bielema has even played head games with Shane, even doing the substitution stuff now.
Let me ask you, what did you think of that? What did you think of that point?
I mean, dude, sportsmanship. I mean, all right, some gamesmanship, it felt like, back and forth. I mean, Beamer gets overly excited. He's an emotional guy. I think he would tell you that. He wears his emotions on his sleeves. And I think Bielema is kind of a prankster, likes to, from everybody. I've never worked with Brett Bielema, but I know people who have. And they're like, dude, he is who he portrays, like big drinker night before in the hotel room at the social, but like he likes to play pranks on people. I think that's him. He's kind of like did he probably walk over there and do this and take it too far? It's like, yeah, but he also probably knew, like, I think a lot of these guys know Shane's has a very short fuse.
Of course they do.
So I think they know they can mess with him and pick one. But it looked like it was fine at the end. Like they shook hands and it was over. It wasn't anything.
I love it. Listen, I want more of that. And by the way,
it put more energy into the game.
That's also why I love bowl season, because you're never going to see something along those lines in the playoff. You'll never see a coach put his team in jeopardy of potentially getting a 15-yard penalty or a taunting call or any one of those little things. But you'll see that in a bowl game. And that's why bowl games do matter, because it raises the intensity. It raises the animosity. I mean, you're talking about a Cheez-It flying through the air at one point. There was a couple that got married right between the first and second quarter that got perused around. They're going to get divorced probably later tonight. And now you have fights on the field between coaches. Like, just put them inside of a octagon for 4 quarters and let it be that way. And I understand when, where you're getting with the fake injuries. I get what you're talking about with the substitutions and all that shit. I get the reasoning of why he's acting that way. I do. But I'm for it. I really am. Because more importantly, if it adds more value to the game, if it puts more pressure on these teams who want to deliver. Because I'll tell you what's happening. Shane Beamer's telling his players when he gets to the sideline, I want you to beat them into oblivion. I want you to make them scream uncle. And don't think for one second that Brett Bielema is not telling them, hey, you watch the way that Beamer's acting over there? Make sure that he blows a gasket and has a brain aneurysm on his way back to Columbia. That's what you want in these games. I love that type of animosity. I love that type of feel. And I love the fact that we're going to see more of these coaches because they put an emphasis. They love the fact that they get an opportunity to close out the year with a win. They love the fact they have an opportunity to close out the year with a positive outlook going into 2025. I think that's great. And so I'm all for it. I'm all for that type of level of animosity. I'm all for that type of level of hatred. I would be very content. And you know what? You got to see the game end on a high note because of how high the volume was between these two sidelines.
Bear, were you disappointed in Clay? I mean, a unit that's been the most consistent unit, one of the more consistent units in the league, and certainly for South Carolina, the defense side of the ball, Clayton White and the boys, probably one of their worst performances this season.
It was their worst performance of a while. I mean, you
almost gave up 400 yards. You got 390, 260 through the air, 130 on the ground. I mean, wasn't a terrible average, 3.9, but no, I mean, it just they'd been better for sure.
The other thing is that they gave up 75% third down conversions. I mean, you have to be able to get critical stops on third down. When you're 8 of 12, what's going to happen? You're going to find a way to continue to move the ball and put up points. The Alex Herrera field goal right before halftime that was just a little bit far to the right. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not Michael Jeter. We know who Jeter was. We know how consistent he was. We know how well that he was making clutch kicks. Now he's at Notre Dame. I'm not going to sit here and act like that was the only thing that was a fault. I'm not saying that there weren't some missed calls. There were probably missed calls on some other side, against South Carolina too. So I'm not going to sit here and act like it. What I'm going to say is that, again, this was a defensive performance that seriously, compared to what we saw against Texas A&M, compared to what we saw against Clemson, compared to what we saw against Missouri for 3.5 quarters, right before the last 7 minutes, that to me was not clinch South Carolina. And by the way, we got over 2,000 people watching right now. So if you could, just make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel. That way we continue to keep this content free. We're able to go ahead and give you the best content surrounding everything with South Carolina, with Big Ten football. We're on the road to 20,000. Make sure that we can try and get there, or at least closer to there before the end of the college football season. It's not the only thing. It wasn't the best performance. There are other performances that I absolutely think were way worse for South Carolina this year. I think the performance really for the first half against in that Old Dominion game was bad, but but this was not near the same as what we saw against Texas A&M. It wasn't the same as what we saw in the second half against Alabama. Living in third down, you got to be able to get those stops. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you.
All right. What do you think of Lenore Sellers? And because here's my thing. Mike Shula's the offense coordinator. They want to keep it internally. You know how I felt about this move. You knew that I was somebody that was not for Mike Shula being the primary guy. And now you're going to have to build around it. But this was the first time seeing them really work together. It was Shula's offense. No Dow Loggins. It was Shula calling plays. What'd you think?
I mean, today wasn't good. I mean, it definitely wasn't good. And I can see where some people would have some concerns or be a little pessimistic in regards to what we're going to see in the offseason, because this was probably one of their worst offensive performances. It was definitely, since Lenore Sellers has been getting it rolling in the back half of the season, it's definitely his worst performance. I mean, he looked off balance. His feet were in unison with his arm. I don't know. His whole base looked off. He was just inaccurate. but I think he's better when he is playing a little when he's improvising a little bit. You know, like that's kind of the style of his play. I mean, the talent though. I mean, just his overall upside talent, exceptional through the roof. Probably him or Lagway definitely have the highest upside of any quarterback
coming into next year. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, even with Arch Manning in there, throw him in there too. Scrambling ability, we know about that. But he's been missing too many easy throws. Still a redshirt freshman. He's going to have to develop, and I think we knew that. And I think just it's going to leave. It's a weird timing because we're all prisoners of the moment. At times, we always remember the last thing we see, and it's just unfortunate. This is the last performance we're going to see of Lenore Sellers, especially with the new OC, Mike Shula, who's been in the building, and it wasn't good today. So it does leave people pondering heading to the offseason, like, God, what can this really look like? In the spring, you know, everything's going to be like, oh, it's okay. Like, it's going to be bad sometimes. It's going to be good sometimes. You have an answer for all of it. You won't know till the season comes around. I'm not totally off of it. I like Mike Shula as a play caller. I just think Lenore Sellers going to have to continue to develop, and I think he can. I also think they got to surround him with some guys on the outside to help him out.
That to me is going to be the main thing that Shane Beamer has to do, whether it be in the spring transfer portal window, whether that be with the new players that are coming onto campus right now for spring workouts, whether that's with some names that currently are still in the portal looking for their next destination. The thing about Shula's offense, when he was working with Cam Newton, they had a 1-2 punch at the running back position. They always did. They also had really good, consistent tight end play. I like the fact they brought in Jordan Dingle, the tight end from Kentucky. I think that's going to be really beneficial. I do think that you are still going to see the growth and maturity of a Nick Harbor. Maybe a Mazeo Bennett steps on up as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. His little brother, Sellers' little brother's coming on in next year to be a wide receiver. I think that is probably beneficial. I want to see another enforcer. I want them to add in another running back just because of what you're losing to the NFL draft and what you're losing to graduation. But I'm not ready to give on up. Again, this is a quarterback with potentially the most upside in the SEC. This may end up being the best quarterback to come through Columbia, South Carolina in program history when all is said and done. And he's only a redshirt freshman. And the fact is that he was able to guide his team. Where would South Carolina be this season without Lenore Sellers? I think that's the other way that you have to look at the situation, is where would South Carolina be without Lenore Sellers' 6-game run down the stretch? Because of that is where you get to have hope. And he's here for another year. He's become a staple of your team. People are coming to South Carolina. They're looking at South Carolina as a place and a destination where we can win because of what they have at the quarterback position. And keep in mind, 9-4, right outside, the same record as Alabama, potentially the same record as Ole Miss, a better record than Texas A&M. All these teams were ranked ahead of you. That's still a really good year compared to what we initially thought about South Carolina going into the season. 6-6, 7-5, maybe that would be beneficial. I'm looking right now at this team and saying, you have the momentum, you have the quarterback, you have the offensive tackle, you have the defensive end in Dylan Stewart that are all going to be here for the long haul to be your baseline foundation moving forward. And the best part is you also brought in a quarterback that I think is going to work for the long term if he has to come in and play in Aaron Noland. So I'm excited about where South Carolina is. This game is not the way to look at it. And the other thing that I want to also give a lot of credit to is Illinois. Illinois kind of flew under the radar. I'm not going to sit here and go through their schedule about who they played because it'd be the exact same thing that we're talking about when it comes to a team like Missouri. Missouri got to 10 wins. Illinois got to 10 wins. A 10-win season at a program like Illinois, a program like Missouri, don't come around that often. So give a lot of testament. They were down one of their star running backs. They were down their star linebacker. They were down their leading receiver, and they still found a way to get the job done. I want to give credit where credit's due. Yes, we can talk about the penalties. Yes, we can talk about the fact that they had all these shift-ins with the defensive substitutions. We could talk about the one time that South Carolina got flagged. We could talk about all those things. What I want to talk about is that, again, at the end of the day, it was a good game. I still enjoyed bowl season. I enjoyed what I watched. Both teams, I think, showed up. Both teams gave us a 4-quarter battle.
From a South Carolina perspective next year, too, you know what concerned me with the red zone struggles today? I'm one that thinks you can win with a lot of college running backs. I think there's a few elite ones. You got a bunch of ones you can win just depending what system it's in. I think they got to replace Rocket Sanders. They got to like his ability. Again, that's what kind of scared you about Dow Loggins and kind of showed you like, all right, Dow Loggins was kind of, for the way the kids use the term these days, mid a little bit. This year, it's like, dude, a lot of what he was creating for them was a lot of yards after contact. And today's struggles, the 4 red zone trips and only getting 3 points, showed you they missed him a lot. They missed him a lot today. So that would be somebody, if I'm Shane Beamer, you have to go in the portal and get a big bruiser, at least somebody we could petition. And again, you're not going to replace a healthy Rocket Sanders. He's a beast.
No.
He's really rolling. But
well, remember what he did when he was at Arkansas.
I mean, they're going to replace his production some way, maybe with two guys.
But remember what he did at Arkansas, too. I mean, like, that was when we fell in love with him about what he could be as a playmaker in the SEC. So that's an exciting part. Dave, let's go ahead and grade South Carolina's 2024 season. 9-4, 4 ranked wins against AP opponents, 3 ranked wins against college football playoff top 25 opponents. They're going to finish in the top 25. What do you give them for 2024?
I'm going to give them a B+. I'm going to give them a solid B+. I mean, 9 wins. If you look back in the history books, South Carolina, it's kind of been their ceiling at times. Won the SEC East when it was down at times a little bit. But I think, again, I don't really take today. Yeah, when you go play in a competition, we've all played in sports, dude. We're all competitors. Like when you're out there for those 60 minutes, you want to go win. But you shouldn't let's don't be prisoners of the moment and just judge a season by this. Let's take a 35,000-foot view, look at it. I mean, it's got to be a B+. I mean, for me, at least. I mean, because they exceeded my expectations tremendously. I think you got your foundational piece quarterback. You found him in this season as well. Your defense had a lot of seniors stepped up, won you some games. You had some exciting wins against A&M at home in a place that was rocking. You beat Clemson on the road. You get some big wins. That Missouri game. Again, you talk about that one all the time, Bear. I think people underrate that win. That was probably Missouri's best game of the season, and South Carolina won that win. So I enjoyed South Carolina's season this year. Again, I have my thoughts on Shane Beamer, but I think it is an exciting product they bring right now. He does bring energy. He's an interesting character. So I think overall, B+ with probably not as optimistic with a win going into the offseason, and especially with how Lenore Sellers played and the run game, lack of run game, and Mike Shula's play call. I'm probably not as optimistic, and naturally, just because you lost this. But I think there's reason to have faith going into next year that South Carolina can go get another 8, potential 9 wins next year as well. So I'm going to go B+, Bear.
A-. And the reason I go A- is because of you're talking about a Nick Emanwari interception holding and a non-Lenore Sellers second half injury against LSU away from going to the college football playoff. And I stand on that. And if you were to tell me at the start of the year that this team would have finished 10-2 or 10-3 with a loss in the first round of the playoff or the second round of the playoff, I would have probably said that's even a little bit more than what I expected, because I thought that this team was probably 8 wins, maybe 9 wins. I called them the biggest wild card of 2024, and they really were. They didn't look great against Old Dominion. They came out, they were swinging against against Kentucky. They had a couple of missed things go their way in the LSU game. Naturally, the penalty. They dominated the entire second half. There was no team hotter in the SEC than South Carolina. You got your quarterback of the future. You also got significant wins over quality teams. You nearly found a way to beat Alabama, an Alabama team that did finish with 9-3. More importantly, you have a foundation in place. I love what South Carolina is. I think that South Carolina is a great team moving forward. I think it is becoming a primetime destination to maybe reach that same level as what Ole Miss was in 2024. And they maybe get into the college football playoff because they get that 10th win the way that Ole Miss can't. They can go out, they can bring in the right pieces and resources around a Lenore Sellers, around a Josiah Thompson, around a Nick Harbor. They just got to add in a couple more pieces. To me, again, South Carolina, 9 wins is a quality year for Shane Beamer. He hasn't gotten to that level consistently just yet. I think he can get to that level. I want to give a huge shout again to Illinois. They're a team that got to a 10-win year regardless. I think that when you look at what South Carolina is and what it can be, it is a sleeping giant in the works for a 2-year run. I'm not saying it can get to Alabama's level or Georgia's level or Texas's level, but for a 2-year period, this is a team that I think can absolutely find a way to get into a college football playoff hunt. That much I will stand by. And it starts this year and it carries it on over into next year.
Yeah. No, a lot to build on.
South Carolina. Well, good news is you get the quarterback. Best news is that you have an entire offseason to build around him. The even best part is you don't have to listen to us talk to you guys for a little while unless you really want us to. And here's the best way to do so. Make sure you hit subscribe. That way you keep up to the content with everything that we're doing, because we got one more live stream today breaking down the Texas Bowl, which does feel like that we will at least see some face be saved for the SEC. Make sure that also you're following us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. War Chickens, it's going to be fine. 9 wins in 2024. Could be a lot worse. Peace.